Welcome back to Making Records with Eric Valentine. That's me. So this episode I'm very excited about. Some nerdy techie stuff in here. So this is the beginning of me diving into the world of this RCA BC-2B tube console that I've been using ever since I got it working, and I just adore this thing. So fun to record through. And so this first little clip that you can check out, this was, I knew right out of the gate I'm going to have to replace all of the electrolytics in the power supply. It had these big like can multi-element electrolytic capacitors in it. Fortunately, there's people that are making ones that are equivalent configurations or close enough that I could get them in there and have them fit reasonably well, and replace the ones that were there. And so I got those and put them in and powered up for the first time in these first couple of clips. You can check that out. Here it is.
And what's going to take to get this thing going?
Well, I already got the power supply working.
Mm-hmm.
I replaced all the capacitors and that. Mm-hmm. That's happening. And now I got to make a power supply cable.
Okay.
That'll hook up to this terminal strip here. Mm-hmm. It's got to connect there.
And is that the moment where you could be electrocuted?
There's that possibility there.
So you're not going to do that, right?
I'm definitely not going to electrocute myself.
But you are going to be the guy that installs it.
Yeah, I'm gonna wire it up. And then we're getting close. Here's all the replaced capacitors right there. My new custom power cable that'll go from the power supply. Beautiful Tech Flex all the way up here into the back of this guy. Boop, 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 boop. Getting into there. I think we're gonna try powering it up. See what happens. All right, we've got glowing tubes. Look at that. That means I got the heater voltage right. And no smoke. Look at that. No smoke.
So you can see that it powered up and didn't catch on fire. That's always a great start. And you can see, if you look close on this first little sort of pan across, when I literally had it on, I was checking to make sure the tubes were glowing, all that stuff, make sure there wasn't smoke showing up anywhere. And you can see all of these really large film capacitors. And so I replaced all of the electrolytics pretty much everywhere I could find them in the circuit, and the mic preamps, all the preamp circuitry. So the mic preamps and the summing amps had tons of film capacitors in them. And in my previous experiences refurbishing vintage equipment, generally the film capacitors are pretty stable over time, and you can, they'll probably still be working. Electrolytics, they'll dry up, anywhere from 10 to 15, 20 years for sure. Like they will want to be replaced. And so I was going to leave the original film capacitors, but I've never refurbished, a piece of equipment that is 70 years old. This thing is so old at this point. It's from the early 50s, like 52, 53, something like that. And so ultimately, when I got the thing powered up and started testing channels and stuff, they were all over the place. There was, all kinds of weird stuff going on. And so I realized, okay, I got to replace all of these film capacitors. And so also, so you'll see that in the next clip. You'll see all these yellow looking film capacitors, which is the replacement for every single one of them. There's another clip that I showed in there at the end, which was just like a little pan across the console, an Unfairchild, and an old Ampex tape machine. So this was at a phase when we were working on demos for this record, and I really wanted to establish a sound for this record. And so the idea was, I'm going to use this RCA console, this old, Ampex tape machine. It's just gonna have a sound to it, and it will make it easy, so I don't have to try and find a cool plug-in or something to make it have a sound. It's just going to be built into this setup. And so that was the setup that we were using for demoing all the songs early in the process. And it was really fun, and it sounded really cool. It was a cool little setup in our basement at our house there. Yeah, so you can see, all the little yellow capacitors that were used to replace the original film capacitors. I had to replace every single one just to get all these circuits to really function the way they were originally designed. And you get to see the fun of doing, technical refurbishing with your family. And so my son is hanging out and very excited about these new things that he hadn't seen before and wanting to put his fingers on everything, and me trying to manage that.
He's getting put over here, and on the way there, but we can't touch it. Can't touch it. Okay, sorry, buddy. No touch. No touch. We can't touch it.
It was really hard because he just was at the pottery studio with me,
Uh-huh.
and he was also not allowed to touch anything in there.
Yeah.
I feel a little strange about him being that close to the back of the unfair child.
Yeah, or this.
Or whatever it is.
Gets the tape to that one.
Uh-huh. Take the tape over there.
Can I go over there?
Yeah, go over this way.
And why cannot?
Yeah, follow Mama. So what do we got going on here, boys?
Well, we are deep into
Tape machine calibration.
I'm clearing off some tape. I'm erasing the tape, pre-erasing it, so we don't get any bleed through of old stuff that was on it.
Daddy?
Yeah.
So I did manage to keep, Sagan from sticking his fingers everywhere they shouldn't go. And in this next bit, the RCA console was originally designed as a mono console, and so I endeavor to convert it to a stereo console. And so in the first bit, I'm at the very beginning of that process and sort of explain what I'm going to try and do. And then there's another clip where I'm basically at the end of the process. I'm about to turn it on and test it to see if it works. So here you go. Check it out.
So my next adventure here is to try and turn this cool old RCA tube mixer from mono in stereo. And so I had already, refurbished the thing as it was originally designed to function. You can see it's a bunch of all those yellow capacitors, a bunch of new caps in there. I replaced the big multi-element electrolytics and stuff, did all that stuff, got the thing working. But it has a main program bus here that is really the main line output for the console that you would use to send to a tape machine or out to the TV audience or whatever. And then it has this monitor bus here, and they are quite similar. The input stage is almost identical. It's the same transformer and the same 12AY7 for the initial gain stage. But then after that, they're different because this monitor amp, it has a line output, and I tried it. I tried to see, okay, maybe it's close enough and the line output will sound cool. It did not. It sounded pretty funky. So it was really designed to drive a speaker in the room. So you could actually plug a passive speaker directly into the console and have a monitor volume here, and you could just control your monitoring volume in the room. And so the output of this thing is basically like a Fender guitar amp. It's pretty funny. Two 6V6s would plug in here for the output stage as a push-pull circuit, and that's really the primary difference between the two. So on this one, it's a single 6V6 that is set up single-ended or Class A. This is set up push-pull Class A-B. And so there's probably some, some other differences that they had to have there. The primary one was that different output transformer, and I managed to, super lucky, needle in a haystack search, found one of the original RCA output transformers that go in the program amp right there. And I just swapped that out, and I decided, oh, I should probably be making a video of this, whatever, gotta have content. So there's the output transformer here. Here's the one here. They're made by UTC for RCA. I happened to find one on eBay. Turned out to be a guy from this retro gear place that I was talking to about buying one of these consoles from, and lo and behold, he had one of the transformers. So I got the transformer. I've already swapped that out. Super lucky. I mean, the mounting holes match. It makes it really easy. And this circuit is really pretty simple, and this one's actually more complicated. This is the one that I'm recreating, and there's just not that much to it. There's like 13 resistors. There's, I don't know, maybe 7 capacitors in there. This 1 can electrolytic, a few tubes, and that's it. I mean, it's just not that much to it. So I should be able to convert this thing over, because now I have all the essential components that I need. I have the input and output transformer. I ordered all of the resistor values that I need. Some of them I have to make out of 2 resistors. They just don't have the same variety of values in carbon composition resistors anymore. And I'm going to stick with carbon comp because I really want to stay true to the original circuit. Carbon comp resistors generally have a little more noise to them, but that's just part of the thing. So I want it to look and sound like the original thing. If I put a bunch of metal films in there, it might be quieter, but it's not going to be the original thing. So I'm going to stick with that, noise and all. And so here we go. I got the output transformer. That's the thing that really would have sunk this, because it's a dual primary transformer. The actual main signal comes in here, if I remember right. I might have this backwards, but main signal comes in on one of the primaries here, and then there's another primary that is in the feedback loop of the output stage, and so that gets kind of complicated. There is no documentation on what this transformer is, so even if I wanted to have somebody make it, I wouldn't really know exactly what I'm recreating without doing a lot of measuring or deconstructing one or something to try and figure it out. So I lucked out, got this transformer. I can drop it in there and just wire it up the same as the other one. That's about the skill level I'm at here with with doing electronics projects. I can copy the fuck out of something, but when it comes time to actually design a circuit like this, I leave that to people that know what they're really doing. So here we go. All right, wish me luck. All right, so it's a moment of truth here. I believe I am done with this whole wiring conversion on the RCA console. As far as I can tell, I've done everything. So the only thing that's left is if I made some mistakes. So the process for me is, fortunately, I think I mentioned this before, but the RCA stuff has incredible documentation. And so I just print out a copy of the schematic right there and use a highlighter pen and just cross stuff off as I confirm that it is, connected properly. So there's the schematic. And then this is a graphic of the actual wiring layout, the physical layout, how things actually connect in the little chassis. And so you can see it down there. This thing is actually oriented like that. It's like that. And actually, this one really looks identical to that, so this thing looks like that. And this one was very close, but there were a couple things that were physically a little bit different. The orientation of the tube sockets and stuff like that. So there was some stuff where I couldn't just hook it up, so it looked physically identical, because I'd be going to wrong pins and stuff. So I had to keep track of what pins were oriented where, stuff like that. But in theory, all of this is done now. All I got to do is turn it on and see if smoke comes out of it. That'll, that tells the tale. And so usually what I do is I'll power it up. Before I really put any audio through it, I just check voltages, particular places on the tubes, stuff like that. Make sure that all the voltages are coming up the way they should. That's usually the best indication of whether this thing is, generally working or not. The other good test is to just see if any smoke comes out of it. So we call it the smoke test. And so that is next. Here we go.
Okay, so did the smoke test. They were working. So it was now stereo Class A, summing amps to come out of that thing, line level, and be able to feed, however you wanted to set it up. And there were some other issues that arose that I ended up having to deal with sort of later down the road. There was just a certain point where I kind of ran out of time. I really wanted to use this thing. It sounded really cool. Even with the issue that was there, I was able to sort of accommodate it with the setup and make it work. And so I just jumped in and did it, and then later on was able to figure out what the issue was and address it later on before I was really committing stuff with it. So yeah, the RCA console is a bit of a journey, and still I have ideas for modifications and things that I want to do that will just make it more usable, kind of in every context. I kind of want to use it on everything. So there it is, the RCA console refurb. So next episode 12, it says the burn pile. Okay, that's gonna be the next one. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.